Hello, where brains meet beauty fans. Thank you for tuning in. This is our 209th episode, so that's a pretty cool, big number to say, and I'm really grateful that you joined us here on YouTube Live. It's always so fun to get to have our fans see the show get made and all the behind the scenes. So at the start of our season, our fifth season, we introduced this new way to enjoy our episodes here on YouTube Live. So please subscribe now and click that bell to get those future live episode notifications. And of course, tell your friends. And this episode will also be available for listening on your classic podcast apps. So this episode will go live on your podcast apps in a few weeks. But in the meantime, check back into our archive. We have 208 amazing other episodes for you to learn from and really enjoy the wisdom of our guests. So now I'm super excited to introduce you to the third guest of our sustainability theme. Her company is Saving the World by Reinventing Our Everyday Routines. Please welcome Lindsay McCormick. She's the founder and CEO of Bite.
Thanks so much for having me, Jody. I'm
Lindsay,
super excited about today.
It's so great to see you. I love talking to you in our previous conversation, and it's awesome to see your face.
Nice to see you too. This is so fun. I love YouTube Live. It's like such a fun way to do this.
Yeah, well, we were looking for a way where we can be super engaged with our guests, but also our fans. And there will be fan questions during the course of this episode, which is fun. And then we also get to play a fun game, a surprise game with you in a little while. And there's just no better way to do it than here on YouTube. So we know this is a career journey show, and we have so much fun stuff to talk about in terms of your career journey and how you got here. But before we do that, I have to give you a shout out for your voicemail on your phone number. So when I when I called your number, I received a voicemail saying, "This is Lindsay. I'm not going to check this voicemail, so don't leave me one. And I'm not going to answer numbers that I don't recognize a number. So if we're supposed to have a call, text me." And I think it's genius. So I really want to applaud you on this amazing voicemail.
Thanks. I think it's very important to be very protective of your time, especially, we're running our own businesses. Like, it's so easy to just kind of lose track in like the yeses and like the kind of doing all these different things where I just feel like as long as I'm upfront, I put my boundaries out pretty like strongly, I can get everything done I need to during the day for the most part. So yeah, that's that's what that
I'm
is.
going to ring the bell for this because it's that amazing. And
Oh my
what gave
gosh,
you the
so funny.
inspiration for like just putting this out there that this is the way you're living your life and managing outreach?
I think it's um, a necessity actually. For me, it's, there's so many people who are calling all the time, whether it's spam, so many times like your number gets sold to those aggregators where they just push it out, or, other like businesses, like applications that want to work with my business, and somehow they get my number and then they're calling, and like I want to be able to spend my time where I need to, right? Whether that's with the team or, working, and just constantly thinking like, oh, I need to check a voicemail, or oh, I need to get back to this person, is just, it was taking too much mental bandwidth. And so, I mean, text messages are amazing and we all have email, and I want it in writing anyway. Like, I'm not going to check the voicemail. I'm just not. And so I leave my voicemail box full. It's purposely full. And if someone needs me, like if it's a friend or something, they have a cell phone so they can text me. And if it's a business person, if it's like another app that wants to work with, or an app or a company that wants to work with us, they'll text me as well. And then I can get back to them if I want to. I try to be really intentional on where my time is going, just because there are so many demands that you're constantly getting pulled in so many different directions all the time. I just saw it as an easy win and a thing to do. And it's funny, I actually had just emailed another female founder of mine that I just became friends with from a conference last week. And when I sent her an email, because she was like, "Yeah, I'm happy to make an intro for you to this a company that I wanted to work with, she was like, just shoot me an email and with a quick blurb, and then I'll forward it over. And when I emailed her, her email bounced back with an auto response saying like, "Hi, this is blank. I'm, wanting to spend more FaceTime with my team. Just know I read every single email, and if it's business critical, I'll get back to you, and if not, I'll get back to you when I can." And I was like, "Oh my god, that's so brilliant!" So I'm actually probably going to do that to my email too, because there's so much inbound all the time that I want people to know, like, I see it, I hear it, I know, and if I want to get back to you, I will. So yeah, I think that's I'm actually going to be doing that to my email as well. So
I actually gave you a shout out today on Instagram because I was so inspired by your voicemail, and it reminded me of another podcast guest of ours, Courtney. She's a co-founder of ShareShare, and her email is exactly how you described. I send her a message. I immediately get a return bounce email saying, hers actually says, "I check my email twice a day. So I will get to your email," right? So she sets time in her calendar for checking email, which
hmm
is amazing. And then if
yeah,
there are emergencies, she lists out different people in different departments of her company that you can reach out to. But I just loved it. It made me so happy. I'm so proud of you for doing it and taking that initiative. And I hope more people get inspired to find ways to manage their time. It's a great hack.
thank you.
Well,
Yeah.
okay. Well, let's move on to my favorite question of the show. Since we are always talking about career and journey, let's go back in time, Lindsay, to your 11-year-old self. What do you want to be when you grow up?
Oh, my 11-year-old self. Okay, so I always wanted to be everything. I wanted to be like an astronaut, an archaeologist, like an FBI agent. Like I wanted to do all of the things, and it was a new thing every week. And I think that's actually kind of interesting because that's even after college and throughout high school and college and after college, I've always had like a bunch of different jobs. Whatever I thought like I was curious about, I thought would be interesting to learn to know how to do. I would want to get a job in it. And so yeah, I never had like any major, career ambitions as a kid, but I just wanted to do all of the things. I wanted to do them all.
And were the people around you encouraging of that?
Yeah. So my parents were always really, really encouraging, and my family was always really encouraging of just kind of following your happiness and just kind of understanding that like if you follow what you're interested in and what you're good at, you'll like success will eventually follow. And so I think that was something that they were always, they were like, if you want to go to space camp, like start saving up for space camp, and if you want to go, and do this, like so it was they were very encouraging, but then also we're like, if you want to do these things, you have to put the work in to do it. So yeah.
Well, what was your first job that you actually got paid for?
So my first job, I was an elf at the mall. I was with like the straight up hat and everything. Yeah, I was an elf at the mall in Tyson's Corner, and it was where you can go and you can bring the kids to go take a photo with Santa. I was the one either trying to like distract the kids and not let them cry, or to actually taking the photos. And it was a really fun first job. I was saving up for my first car, so I liked it a lot.
And were you good at this job?
Yeah, I was good at this job. I have a lot of patience and like a sense of humor about things. And I feel like it's like with screaming kids who are all dressed up and like terrified of Santa, and you just have to have a certain type of personality for that. And it definitely suited my personality. That's for sure.
And were you able to save up for that car?
I was. I was. Not just from that job. I had that job, that was like a seasonal, that was my winter job, because I was 15, so I had a work permit, right? Do you remember, like, you had to have work permits or what? So I was 15, I had a work permit. That was, like, one of the ones that would let do it, and then, I got a job at the Rainforest Cafe in the same mall. I was in their retail store, which was also very much me. I was like, "If I'm gonna be anywhere, I wanna be, like, where they're spouting rainforest facts all day." I got a job at the Rainforest Cafe in the retail store, that little like store that they have when you walk through the restaurant.
That's so awesome. Okay, so let's skip ahead a little bit in your career. You told me that you've been a surfing instructor, a snowboard instructor. You've worked at Starbucks. Um, you know, how did you make these decisions? What was your guiding force?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I've had so many random jobs. And when I moved to LA, like I was an extra, like through LA casting, I was a bartender and like a server. For me, it was always like I just did jobs that seemed interesting with good people that I felt like could be helpful. Like honestly, I got a job at Starbucks because I loved coffee and I wanted to learn how to make all their drinks. And I was like, well, might as well just get paid how to like learn how to do this. And it was amazing. Like all throughout college, like I bought an espresso machine and I was making like Starbucks quality drinks on like a college budget price. And it was, I think for me, it was just what do I think is interesting and what will, help pay the bills. Obviously, snowboard instructor, surf instructor. I did that right out of college. Wasn't making much money at all. I mean, I think there is money to be made in snow and surf sports, but I was not making a lot of it. But I loved it. Every day I was outside and every day I was doing what I liked to do. And so it was a really great job for me at the time. So, and it was the same kind of patience that I had from working with kids when I was taking photos of them when I was 15, so with Santa.
When I was finishing up school, I felt this like social society pressure to like have a cool job, and I ended up working at a big advertising agency in New York City, in a very junior role. But I thought like it had to be that way, right? My peers were getting jobs at investment banks or like biotech companies and all this stuff. So I didn't really have, I guess, the feel grounded enough in like what my passions were, what my vision for myself was. I just sort of followed along on that train. Did you feel those pressures when you were making these decisions that maybe weren't like, it wasn't a money focus, it was just a joy focus?
So luckily, honestly, not really. They were, of course, there, but I chose not to listen to them, right? So I drove the same dented up Honda Civic that I bought when I was 16 years old. I drove that all the way until I was like 27 years old. Like it was like, but I had no car payment and I didn't care. And it was like, it was totally, have always very much been about like life design and kind of following your happiness more than following anything else. But I will say, like, on my 29th birthday, I got a job, and this is kind of fast forwarding a little bit, but I got a job as an assistant as a production company, a TV production company, and I was making $600 a week. I was living in a friend's guest room, and I remember talking to like my friends who I grew up with, like I live right outside of Northern Virginia, or I lived in Northern Virginia, right outside DC, and they were like, "Yeah, I think I'm going to be able to make my goal to make six figures by the time, I'm 30, and I'm sitting here being like, oh my God, I'm making $600 a week and I don't have health insurance, but for me, I didn't really feel pressured. I just felt like, wow, what different life choices. Cause I also noticed like a lot of my friends who were having those really high paying jobs, they also like had really expensive lifestyle choices they were making. They were like, they lived in expensive apartments, they drove nicer cars, they went to the gym, and they didn't really necessarily seem happier than I was, like living in a friend's guest room, like driving a POS car. And like I was just kind of like, I think we're just making two different choices, but I don't think either of them are right or wrong. One of them is definitely more valued by society, I feel like, in general. But I didn't really feel the pressure to do that. It was just kind of like, oh, it looks like there's another option that I'm choosing not to take. But yeah, I was aware of it, but didn't necessarily feel pressured.
I love that you were able to make the other choice because I think it's what many of us actually want in our heart, right? I'm in my
Mhm.
40s now. Like my friends, they all want to like maybe if they are good at snowboarding, they want to go, do this for a living, right? So they kind of want to go back in time a little bit
Mm.
and pick something that's not so focused on a certain path, that's kind of preset and predetermined, but just follow their joy. So it's amazing that you, at such a young age, made that decision and stuck to it.
Thanks. I mean, it wasn't easy. I definitely was very stressed out the entire time, but I think it's all about choices, right? I don't think any choice is like easier, harder, right or wrong. It's just like kind of making the choice and then being like, okay, like this, like, how do I make the best of the choice that I made? And then kind of being like, okay, so if this is what this is. And so, yeah, I think that there was definitely, yeah, It's man, your 20s are a wild time. 20s, you're just trying to figure things out, and there's so many different things, especially with like social media. I feel like, we were kind of the first generation to live through your 20s, like seeing what everybody, all of your peers are doing. And I think that that was something that, I wonder if we'll like look back and see, especially as these upcoming like Gen Z who, they like notably will not like work jobs they don't like and do these things. It's like, is it because they can see all these other options now, kind of turning out for people who are following, their passions or following it? I don't know. I think it's a really interesting social experiment that we're all participating in every day.
You make such a good point. I never thought about it that way, Lindsay. Right when I was in college and graduating, all I knew was the job on TV, right? In like TV shows and movies, or like the types of jobs people were recruiting on my campus for. My campus was like people going into engineering and like biotech and investment banking, like nothing that I was interested in. So I had a really, really narrow view of what my possibilities are. And then, yeah, like fast forward to the young people on my team now, like they see so many different types of jobs, right? From candle making to banking to whatever. And they have that gives them more choices. I think more kind of control over their destiny.
Yeah, I totally agree. And even just more access to how to be an entrepreneur, right? Like if you want to have your own candle making business, you can find out like how to make candles from the internet, then how to build a business from the internet, then like even, the nuts and bolts of like how do you start an LLC and how do you like it's literally all here. And it's never been easier to see it and like to do it and to follow kind of that step by step. Not saying it'll work out, right? There's always like a matter of like grit and luck to every single business. But it is, at least it's there, and it's like you can't be what you can't see. And I think right now people can see a variety of options for them, no matter what their passions are.
Well, thank you for that segue because I want to actually talk about how the tide turned, and that's the tide is a pun here on your career choices. So you told me that you had a change of heart about what you're doing when you're working as a surf instructor and noticing plastic in the ocean with you. So to tell us a little bit about that time in your life.
Yeah, so I was in my late 20s, and I was a surf instructor in the summer and snowboard instructor in the winter, and I loved it. I was here in Malibu, and then up in Big Bear, which is they're an hour and a half away from each other. And but every day I was noticing over those 4 years more and more plastic washing up on my board when I was out in the ocean in Malibu. And then when you're working in the snow sports industry, just like so much of the conversation was around, is our sport going to be around in 10, 20 years, with climate change, with global warming. And so it started really getting it on my radar. I'd always been passionate about the planet. I'm a long time vegetarian, but actually vegan for a very long time at this point as well. And so it had always been something that was really important to me. But then, like living it and seeing it every day, I was like, okay, I really want to be able to help with this more than like, organizing a beach cleanup with my friends. And so what can I do? And so I wanted to get into documentaries actually. I had seen, this was like back, oh man, it was like 10 years ago. Blackfish had come out, which is the documentary on the killer whale that it's called Telecom. Oh my God, I forgot the name, but it's a killer whale. And basically that documentary, between that and The Cove, really changed the conversation for marine mammals in general. And now we look like 10, 15 years later, and like there's so many different laws that are there to protect them. But like that all really started from those documentaries. And there's just so many documentaries when you look at the quiet change that they make once people start really listening. And so I wanted to be part of that. And I was like, I would love to be able to work on nature documentaries, conservation documentaries, and try to get the word out about this. But I didn't know anything about TV or anything like that. So I got a job as an assistant at a television production company, figuring I would build up my tool belt in unscripted, which is basically reality TV. I was working on the show House Hunters eventually, to kind of figure out how do you piece together and puzzle piece together stories and make things compelling, so I can then eventually talk about like nature, conservation and things like that. So that was kind of the hard left turn of going from like snow and surf sports to TV. And it was during my time on, the TV shows, like traveling all the time for work, that I came up with the idea for Bite. So it was like a
And
long, twisted journey that all kind of came together in the end.
so how did traveling for the show inspire Bite as a business idea?
Yeah. So, okay, so when you travel for a show, and I'm sure for you too, when you're traveling for work, you only travel I was only traveling carry on only because I'd only be in a place for a few days. And so I would refill my shampoo, my conditioner, my sunscreen, but I couldn't, I was throwing out a little toothpaste tube after every shoot, right? Because they're so small and you use so much like so quick fast. And I was like, this seems so wasteful and I want to find a solve for that. So I started looking into alternatives, like everything, there were some tablets on the market, but they were in plastic and I didn't like how they tasted and they didn't have great ingredients. And then there were some tooth powders, but they were so messy and they were a disaster. And I was like, I can't do any of this. So I was like, okay, I think, and then through that, I learned about all of the ingredients that are in most commercial toothpaste that I hadn't even thinking about. And the fact that most had actually been tested on animals as well. So as a long-time vegetarian vegan, that was a problem for me. And so it was like, okay, I feel like I just need to redo this from the ground up and I'll make these tablets for me to use and like maybe some of my friends that, are TV producers who also care about the planet. And that's how it started. So I bought a tableting machine. I spent time taking open source online chemistry classes and just learning as much as I could, talking to dentists, dental hygienists, until I finally came up with the formula. It's actually very similar to what we use today. And I was pressing out these tablets in my living room.
I love this story. So, it's been just about 4 years of running Bite.
Mhm.
When you think about that, that's like your college career, right? Your freshman year. You had your freshman year, your sophomore year, your junior year, and now I guess you're in your senior year. And then there'll be the graduate school or business school of version of this business and growing it. So 4 years is like probably feels like a million years sometimes, and also like a blip simultaneously.
Yeah.
I want to
That's
talk
so
about this
funny that you
idea.
say that because the first thing oh, sorry. I think there's a
Good.
delay, but it's so funny that you say that because, like, the first thing that I just thought about that when you were like, "It's your senior year," I'm like, "Oh, I remember in high school, I had, like, the worst case of senioritis." Like, I was just, like, out. Like, it was so I don't necessarily feel like that now, but, like, oh, it makes sense. Like, you start being like, "All right, what's going on?" And same thing with college. College, like, by the 4th year, I was like, "Man, I am like, this town feels small." Yeah, so it's funny. Yeah, I'm in my senior year for sure.
Right. And I think what that means, and like maybe you don't have senioritis now, but you learn to do the same thing over and over again and get it to a place where it's optimized and working. And what I think happens with someone like you who's ambitious and highly motivated and mission driven is that your brain opens up to more ideas of how to move this idea forward, right? So the senioritis was, I want more, I want different, I want a different town, different people. But here in your business, it just means like I'm going to invent new ways to reach my goals, right? It just opens your brain up to more having more space. So it's a great segue to this idea of growing the business that I've been thinking about a lot. And just to plug my book that I'm launching in June, it's a book that's a summary of the wisdom that I've learned on my podcast. And it's all about the topic of success being seductive. And I know it's a really disarming word in business, but it's like just always made so much sense to me. From the minute where I like reached one of my goals, even if it was tiny, I got this little taste in my mouth and I wanted more. And it's just like a seduction, right? My business, this like abstraction is calling to me right at all hours, like popping great ideas in my mind in the middle of the night or encouraging me to send that email or go be bolder or whatever it is. So I'm so curious about, the past 4 years for you. Has this growing this business been seductive for you?
That's such a good question. I mean, it's so interesting um how that happens. Like, where it's like you start off and you're like, if I just make $10,000, like I can't believe, and then it's like $100,000, and then you're like $10 million, and like that's still not enough, annual revenue. And so it's like you really do start wanting more. And on one hand, I think that that's so necessary. That is like that's literally leveling up, right? It's like you're leveling up, you're getting better and better and better. That is like the goal that you have. Like, I like to equate a lot of the stuff that I do to like my time as a surf and snowboard instructor, where it's like you want to just constantly be getting better, and you fall and you get, you hurt, but you get back up again and you try and you go and you go and you go, you're leveling up. But at the same point, it's very true where There's a quote that I love. It's from an author called Ryan Holiday, and he has a newsletter called The Daily Stoic, which I absolutely love, and also a variety of books all on Stoicism. But one of the things that he says in his podcast is that if you don't know what you're after, the default is always more. And I think that's something that I always really try to keep, counterbalanced to the leveling up mindset, right? Because there's a really, I think that the growth at all costs mentality is incredibly unhealthy. I don't think that's a good thing for businesses to do, and I don't think it's a good thing for people to do. But I do think that there is a really tough line between wanting to level up and be the best version of yourself, and the best version of your company, and winning and all of that fun, like stuff. Like it's fun, right? It's like it's a game, and it's like really fun to figure out and play. And then like understanding that to be happy with what you have and to be thankful with what you have. And if you don't know what if you don't know what you're after, the default just becomes more, and you just want more and more and more. And then you're somebody else who's, insatiable, and, whether or not you're happy, or, I just think you can get really caught up. So those are two thoughts that I try to always kind of hold in my head, and let them kind of balance each other out. Sometimes it's more on one side than the other. Like it's not always like a perfect scale. But I do think that they both need to have the same weight, whether or not, maybe you tilt one way or the other for a certain amount of time.
You just mentioned something that's so interesting. It never occurred to me before, even through writing the book. So, you talked about like it being fun. It's a fun game to play, right? Like, what can I do
Yeah.
today? How can I reach my goals today? How can I inspire people today? And maybe that's why this theme comes up so much on the show, is because this whole show is about meeting people in beauty and wellness. And I guess if you're like in this industry, you like it, right? You're here for a reason. So there's so much joy and passion built into all of these professionals' careers and career journey, that that's the tension, right? It's this joy and passion on one side and the fun of it, with the, oh, this is hard, this is challenging, it requires a lot of work, right? And that's where the seduction happens, right? I guess I wouldn't be seduced by my business if I thought it was a bore, right? But it's
Yeah.
because it's fun, because I feel engaged and like I'm, working new muscles in my brain and whatnot. That's the reason why the seduction can happen. And I guess that's also, so it's like there's a great side to the seduction, an amazing side, and then there's the challenging side, which is, well, how do I make time for things outside of my work, right? Because I am a whole human, right? I'm not just a one-dimensional human.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I think, especially that that love is so important. Like it's literally flow, right? Like when I'm at my best with my business, I'm in flow, and that is the best feeling in the entire world. And the fact that like we get paid to do this, and we're, are able to build a business in this, and like to be able to do this is just, it's amazing. It's like it's the best thing in the entire world. But I think it's also just, yeah, really important to like understand that, you do need to be able to find flow in other places, or if whether that's, for me, I like to go rock climbing, and I like to go on a hike, and I like to hang out with my dog who keeps wandering around my apartment. You guys see him. His name's Nemo. He's very sweet. And I like to, there are so many other things that I like to do. And I think that it's kind of like figuring out like where you can tap into flow that's not just necessarily work, right? Because then it's like you're not really totally listening, living holistically. But I think it's also really important to remember how incredibly lucky we are that we can tap into flow at our jobs. And that's something that I try to always remind myself, even when things get really hard, or things get really frustrating or overwhelming or exhausting. It's just such like a privilege to be able to kind of have a job where I can find flow, because I think that that's something that's really special, you know?
Oh my gosh, I totally agree. I've been in the beauty wellness space for so long now. I mean, maybe it's like 20 something years. And before that, it was traditional advertising. So that to me feels like pop culture in a lot of ways. Um, and I think that's like the power of the messages that you're sharing today. And my other guests have shared before, is like, finding something that you love what you do, even if it's a hard day. I'm not saying every day is easy, you don't love every single moment, but like overall, if you're like, wow, this is cool, this is a fun place to be, then you're probably going to get caught up in this seduction, because it's like a playground. right? The kids don't want to leave the playground, right? They scream and kick when their parents say it's time to leave the playground, right? Like, so that's what's happening here in our work is like, well, I'll just keep sending more emails because this is fun and people are responding, or I'll respond to, more DMs or whatever it is, right? Because this is fun.
hmm And you get those little dopamine hits of success, right? You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, oh, like, and it's actually when you say that too, it's like it's, and this is like the variable, like the reason that I feel like it's seductive, right? Which you can also would say is addictive, is that it's variable. It's kind of like gambling, right? It's like not everything you do is going to be a hit, and if it was, it would be boring, right? So it's kind of like if I, keep responding to these DMs, like who am I going to meet? Like what partner am I going to, like what partnership am I going to be able to spring from this? And like, those are the types of things. And it's exactly like what a freaking slot machine is, where it's kind of like, I don't know when's it going to pay out? I don't know, but keep doing it. So it's, I try to always, kind of, I said about it before with like the social media thing. I think there's so many like brain psychology is just so interesting. And when you actually just take a step back, like it, we're all operating off the same or like similar chemistry, right? And so different things are happening to different people, whether it's in their jobs or hobbies or gambling, but it's all the same payoff, right? Is it like serotonin and dopamine, like what's happening in your brain that's like making this like happen? So yeah, I don't know. That's like super esoteric, but like I think that stuff's fascinating.
Well, I love ending on that note, Lindsay, because now I'm seeing like I never thought of myself as a risk taker, but I'm totally just throw money in that slot machine every single day, right? Like try it, like and throw money in it and pull the handle and see what happens. So, Lindsay, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with our listeners today.
Of course. Of course. Thanks so much for having me. This was
And please
great.
subscribe to our series on your favorite podcast app. And for updates about the show, follow us on Instagram at Where Brains Meet Beauty Podcast. But Lindsay, you can't go anywhere yet because now we have a Where Brains Meet Beauty snack break that's exclusive to our YouTube Live.
I love this.
Oh, now we get a little crazy. Okay, so I am thrilled to be here with you, Lindsay McCormick, founder and CEO of Bite. We're going to play a game. It's called Travel the World in 5 minutes with Lindsay. So before you started Bite, we know that you did a lot of exploring and you vlogged your adventures around the world. So
Oh my
we've been tracking you, Lindsay. And in
God.
this
Love it.
game, we want you to take us through your journeys and give our viewers some travel advice. So for each location, please tell us one, your favorite thing you did there, and two, your favorite thing you ate, and three, your favorite memory. Okay, so there's we're going to give this for 5 minutes. So where we end at the end of the time is where we'll conclude. Okay,
What a
so
fun game.
okay, so we're going to get started. Are you ready, Lindsay?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so we
Okay.
have
So
our first
Shandong, China.
destination, Shandong, China.
Okay, so definitely the Taishan Mountain, if I'm saying that right. It is this it's a holy mountain. It is absolutely beautiful. And like it's gorgeous. The views are incredible. You can hike up it. It takes about a half a day. And there's this little tea spot at the bottom where you can get green tea that's grown locally. And it's really, really amazing. The best thing that I ate there, oh my gosh, literally everything. I was like I'm vegan, so but there's a lot of options there. I had vegan dumplings with this really good vinegar. It was so good. And then one thing, wait, what was it? And then one of my favorite memories, for sure, I spent the night at the Taishan Mountain, and waking up and seeing all the mist in the morning on the mountain was just like it was like something out of my dreams. So it was
Oh,
really
that's so
amazing.
cool. Okay, let's go on
Yeah.
to our next destination, Prague in the Czech
Oh,
Republic.
so fun. Okay, all the beer, so much good beer. And what did I eat there that was really good? Oh man. Okay, well, one of the favorite things that I did was rented a paddle boat and paddle boated around there, like a little lake in the center. And man, everything that I had there was like, I'm gonna say dumplings again. It wasn't. It was like a potato. It was like a potato. I don't want to say pierogi. I don't know what it was, but it was potatoes and onions, and it was so good. But there's all these little street vendors that you can get food from, and I don't even know what half of it was, but it was all really, really good.
Was it hard to be vegan in Prague?
Um, No, because I eat so much carbs. Like, the only option really was, like, just carbs if you don't wanna eat vegan. So if you're trying to be, like, a healthy vegan, I think you'd have to maybe go out of your way a little bit more. But for me, I was like, "Give me all the potatoes and bread, I don't care. Like, pretzels, it's all good." Yeah, so it was good.
Okay, let's jump to our next destination, Tunisia.
Oh, Tunisia's amazing. Okay, so I mean, everywhere's amazing, but Tunisia was amazing. So Tunisia, I stayed. I mean, I went to a few different places, but um, oh gosh, what is it? Sousse is this really beautiful beach area in Tunisia. They have this incredible mint tea that you can just like sit and all of like the souks you can like take. You can go into where all the shops are, and there's all these different spices, and it's really, really, really cool. The people are amazing, and it would be like so hot, like 100 degrees, but you're still drinking like this like piping hot mint tea. And then I would think like one of my favorite, like the favorite memory there would just be the call to prayer that happens 5 times a day, where everything just gets super still and quiet and peaceful. And yeah, it was Tunisia is a really, really special place. Anybody, yeah, and you can definitely have like a nice little beach vacation if you just go to Sousse, Tunisia. It's beautiful.
Awesome. Okay, we're going to Rome next.
Love it. Okay, obviously pizza. And like, okay, so when I was in Rome, for someone who's not vegan, I would do that. But for me, I did pizza without the sauce or without the cheese. It's actually very easy. And man, there's so much to do in Rome. But I guess like what would be fun to do, I'm trying to think of something that's not so touristy, but I mean, you got to do the Vatican. It's amazing. And so, I mean, it's definitely worth it. And you can do an audio tour. That's what I would say is that I think like one of the big things, especially wherever you're in like a really touristy place, if you can, like whether it's like the Louvre in, you know, Paris or like the Vatican in Rome, to shell out the money to do the audio thing, like not necessarily do the live tour because those are kind of hard to keep up with, but the self-guided audio tours are very, very cool. I would definitely recommend that.
I love that tip.
Yeah.
Okay, Thailand. Wow,
Oh,
you've
this is
really
the White
traveled quite a
Temple.
bit. It's
I know.
inspiring.
So so when I was 28, I took a year and I lived out of a backpack, like and I like went I just like basically had some savings, and I just went and traveled around the world for a while. And then when I was a surf and snowboard instructor, I would travel in the off seasons too. I would just spend like all my money on fun stuff, like nothing practical. Okay, so Thailand, dang. I mean, the pad thai, the street pad thai is like the best I've had ever. And it's just made from these street vendors. You can get it vegan without like any egg or fish sauce. It's actually very easy. But if you're not vegan, there's just so many good options. This is the White Temple. It's pretty amazing. I believe it's in Chiang Rai, which is up by Chiang Mai. And it's like northern Thailand. And you can just walk around this temple, and it's really, really beautiful. I mean, there's so much to do in Thailand. But this temple is really amazing. And what else okay, something to do. And then also what I would do too, man, Bangkok is so fun, and Chiang Mai is so fun. Thailand's a great place to visit, and it's very easy. I would also say if you are someone who has not traveled a ton, um, Thailand is very like new travel friendly. Like it's very easy to get around. There's buses and planes that connect, you know, a lot of the different places. Even though English is obviously not spoken there, a lot of things you can get around with English like really, really well. And Thai people are so incredibly friendly. So I feel like Thailand, like that's when my little brother wanted to start traveling. I was like, go to Thailand, like Southeast Asia. Like it's just such a friendly, welcoming place, and like a good way to kind of get your feet under you if you're trying to learn how to backpack and kind of travel like independently.
And Lindsay, when you were doing all this travel when you're 28 in between your snow and board seasons, were you traveling solo or would you always find a friend?
By myself. So, and I would stay in like hostels and guest houses and just make friends. And then like you'd make friends and you kind of like travel along with them for a little while and then split off and everything. But it was more by myself than anything else. But yeah, and it's interesting because you would think like one of the biggest things that I like people ask is like, do you get lonely? But you really don't because you're interacting so much with like new people everywhere that you go, that you don't, especially when you're traveling by yourself because everyone wants to talk to you. You don't really get lonely. It's very easy to make friends.
That's so awesome. So inspiring, Lindsay. I'm inspired like a
Thank
thousand times
you.
over during this podcast. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Was that our last destination? Okay, let's do this destination, Vietnam, and then we're going to have to move on because we have some fan questions.
Okay, so Vietnam, amazing. Also in Southeast Asia, I would say Ha Long Bay. You can do. It's called a junk cruise. It's like a. I think I did like a 3 night, 4 day junk cruise, and you go around Ha Long Bay. It's so fun. And Vietnam, just in general, it's like a really, really beautiful, beautiful country with so much good food. I don't even know how to begin to just. Everything is good. Eat it all. It's all just so good. So.
Well, thank you, Lindsay, for playing with us and traveling the world with us. That was so
Thanks.
awesome. Okay, with our last 5 minutes, we're going to head to fan questions. So,
Yes.
our fans on Instagram want to know, and I think you have answers for them. So, the first question, and
Yes.
this is about sustainability. What is your favorite sustainable swap other than Bite?
Yes. Amazing. Gosh. So holy crap. Okay. There's so many that I don't even know. Okay. Other than Bite, I would say, um, gosh, I use Supernatural for like home cleaning. It was actually another female founder, the woman who started Poopery. Her new company is Supernatural. It's like they smell amazing. It's glass bottles and it's concentrates. I love it because it feels like very luxe, even though I'm just cleaning my kitchen. I like that. And then I would say, and then cloth napkins. Holy cow! Like I don't buy paper towels anymore. I don't buy napkins anymore. It's actually like very confusing when I go to friends' houses and I'm like, oh right, I forgot that people don't do this. And people still do this. But cloth napkins, it's just the easiest thing. I bought a bunch of them and I just throw them in my wash every week, and it just is the best. I bought these like gray ones from Amazon, and when I first got them, I was like, these feel terrible. But after I washed them a few times, I was like, these are perfect. So.
That's such an easy swap. Okay, second question. What advice would you give to someone who's trying to turn that passion project into a business?
I would say first, keep your day job. That's what I did. I feel like a lot of times people say like jump all in. I think that's terrible, terrible advice. I would say that if you are really passionate about something, do it on the nights, do it on weekends, and basically be able to. What I did is like build the business exactly like how you would like to, and kind of see your day job as an investor in your company that doesn't take any equity. And I think that it is like the best way to do it. And then eventually once you get your little baby bird of a company up and running, you'll be able to replace your income. Hopefully, maybe you have to adjust some of your living standards, but whatever you need to do, and then you can go full time. But I think it's really important when you have this little baby bird of a company, not try to feed yourself off of it because you're going to kill it. So
Oh,
just
I
keep your
love
day
that.
job and then do that. Yeah.
I love saying that your full-time job isn't like an investor in your company that doesn't take equity. That's so smart. There's so many good sound bites, Lindsay. We're gonna have a lot of fun with your sound bite. Okay, last question from fans. Will Bite ever create other sustainable swaps other than oral care?
Yeah, so last year we came out with deodorant. So we have the first ever 100% plastic-free deodorant with compostable refills, and we just released a body moisturizer a few like last month. So they come in these really beautiful cases. One's silver, one's gold, and the body moisturizer is like it's amazing. I use it on my hands like every day, and the deodorant is comes in the same kind of case, and there's no plastic compostable refills that you can just keep refilling indefinitely.
Awesome. Well, we have completed our snack break, so thank you for playing along with us,
Yay.
Lindsay. And I'm so grateful that you were our 209th episode guest.
Good number. That's a good number. So congrats on all the success with this, Jody, too. 209 episodes takes some stamina. Girl, it takes stamina. It's amazing. Speaking of
Well, I just
flow,
keep putting the coins in
speaking
the
of
slot
flow.
machine, Lindsay, right? Like
I
just keep going. It's fun.
keep
I'll just
going.
keep going. It's also free therapy for me. So, it's cheaper than therapy. Well, now I want to thank the people behind the scenes who make this happen. So you can't see her, but Esperanza is our show producer, and she's pressing all the buttons and making all the things go live on YouTube. And so I want to thank her. And I'd like to invite all of our listeners to stick around for our next interview coming right up at 4 Eastern. With Rebecca Boston. She's the Chief Marketing Officer of True Botanicals. And you can also catch our next live stream episode. So here's a big one. Please mark your calendars. On June 2nd, my guest will be a Real Housewife. So, you know, I love Bravo reality TV. So Gina from Real Housewives of Orange County is going to be my guest. She's a skincare entrepreneur now, and I'm actually going to be live with her in person in New York City. So you'll get to watch that on the live stream. We haven't set a time for it. It's probably going to be around 6:30 or 7 Eastern, but we'll update you. And as I mentioned, last piece of housekeeping here, I wrote a book and it's coming out on June 7th. So you can pre-order it now on Amazon. It's called Facing the Seduction of Success. And like I said on the show with Lindsay, it's just years and episodes worth of wisdom from my guests who love their jobs and have passion for their industry. And I wanted to make sure the wisdom of how they navigate success and its pursuit is shared with a wider audience. So that will be a fun book and a great gift for somebody who's either entering their career or looking to advance in it. So more to come on the book. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you on our next show.